Let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. Your biggest enemy is not your circumstances. It's not your boss, your past, your stress, or your lack of opportunity. Your biggest enemy is the voice in your head that panics, doubts, and spirals when things don't go your way. And here's the brutal truth. If you don't master your mind will master you. Every situation you face, good or bad, hits your nervous system first, before logic kicks in, before intelligence shows up, before experience even matters. Your emotions take the wheel, and most people, they let that happen on autopilot. They react instead of respond. They explode instead of breathe. They quit mentally long before they quit physically. But calm, real calm is power. Calm is clarity in chaos. Calm is the ability to pause when everything inside you is screaming to react. Calm is choosing the long-term win over the short-term emotional release. Here's what you need to understand. Emotions are not instructions. They're information. Fear is telling you something matters. Anger is telling you a boundary was crossed. Stress is telling you care about the outcome. But none of those emotions get to decide your next move you do. The moment you realize that, everything changes. Staying calm doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you don't feel pressure. It means you're strong enough to sit with discomfort without letting it control you. And yes, this takes training. You don't wake up one day magically unshakable. You build it the same way you build muscle, under resistance. You practice breathing when your heart is racing. You practice slowing your thoughts when your mind wants to sprint. You practice asking one simple question in every tough moment. What's the most effective response right now? And not the loudest, not the most emotional, the most effective, because when pressure hits, and it will, your habits will decide your future. And here's the final truth I want to leave you with. Anyone can stay calm when life is easy, but leaders are forged when everything goes wrong and they still choose control. If you can master your mind, you can master your reactions. If you master your reactions, you master your results. So the next time chaos shows up, don't panic, don't rush, don't surrender control to emotion. Pause, breathe, decide, because calm isn't the absence of pressure. Calm is dominance over it, and that is how you master your mind. Life doesn't break you. Your unmanaged thoughts do. Long before the world ever touches you, your mind interprets what's happening and decides what it means. That interpretation becomes your reality. Two people can face the same pressure, the same failure, the same uncertainty, and walk away with completely different outcomes, not because of strength or talent, but because of the conversation happening in their head. Your mind is the battlefield where every win or loss is decided first. Most people don't realize they're under attack because the enemy sounds like their own voice. It whispers doubt when things get hard. It magnifies fear when the stakes rise. It replays past mistakes and predicts future disasters that haven't even happened yet. And if you don't take control, that voice runs non-stop, draining energy, killing focus, and turning manageable challenges into overwhelming threats. The danger isn't stress itself. It's letting stress hijack your thinking and convince you that you're powerless. The moment you understand that thoughts are not facts, you gain leverage. A thought is just a signal, not a command. You don't have to obey every negative story your mind creates. You can question it. You can slow it down. You can replace panic with precision by choosing language that builds instead of destroys. When you tell yourself, "I can't handle this," your body responds with tension and fear. When you say, "This is hard, but I can figure it out," your nervous system shifts and your capacity expands. Control of your internal dialogue is control of your actions. Calm thoughts create calm decisions. Focused thoughts create forward momentum. Disciplined thinking allows you to stay present instead of spiraling into worst-case scenarios. This isn't about pretending everything is fine or suppressing emotion. It's about acknowledging what you feel without letting it dictate who you become in the moment. Every great performance, every act of courage, every breakthrough under pressure starts with someone winning the mental fight first. They choose clarity over chaos, They choose responsibility over excuses. They choose to direct their thoughts instead of being dragged by them. And the more you practice that skill, the quieter the noise becomes and the stronger your sense of control grows, even when the environment stays unpredictable, demanding, and unforgiving. Feeling fear, anger, or stress doesn't mean you are weak, and it certainly doesn't mean you have to obey what those emotions demand. Emotions exist for a reason. They are signals designed to give you information about your environment, your expectations, and your values. The problem begins when people confuse information with instruction. An emotion can alert you to danger, injustice, or uncertainty, but the moment you let it take control of your behavior, you hand over your power without even realizing it. Fear often shows up when something matters. It highlights risk, responsibility, and the possibility of loss. Anger usually points to a boundary that has been crossed or a value that feels violated. Stress signals overload, pressure, or a need for better structure. None of these emotions are enemies. They become destructive only when you treat them like orders instead of messages. Reacting immediately might feel natural, but it rarely leads to smart outcomes. Emotional reactions are fast, but they are also short-sighted. Learning to observe emotions instead of becoming them is a skill that changes everything. Observation creates space. That space allows you to pause, breathe, and choose. When you step back and name what you're feeling, you interrupt the automatic loop. Instead of saying, "I am angry," you shift to, "I feel anger." That small change separates your identity from the emotion and restores control. You stop being hijacked and start being deliberate. When emotions drive your actions, they narrow your perspective. Fear pushes you toward avoidance. Anger pushes you toward conflict. Stress pushes you toward rash decisions. But when you treat emotions as data, they sharpen your awareness. Fear can make you prepare. Anger can help you assert boundaries calmly. Stress can push you to prioritize and simplify. The same emotion that once sabotaged you can become a tool when handled correctly. This approach doesn't require emotional suppression. Suppressing emotion only makes it stronger over time. Instead, it requires honesty and discipline. You allow the feeling to exist without feeding it unnecessary stories. You acknowledge the sensation in your body, the tension, the heat, the unease, and you let it pass without attaching impulsive meaning to it. Over time, this practice strengthens emotional resilience and self-trust. People who remain effective under pressure aren't emotionless. They're emotionally literate. They understand that emotions provide insight, not direction. By choosing thoughtful action over instinctive reaction, they stay grounded, clear, and capable even when the internal signals are loud and intense, giving them the advantage in moments that truly matter. Staying calm under pressure is not something you're born with or without. It's something you build. Too often people label themselves as naturally anxious, short-tempered, or easily overwhelmed and treat those traits as permanent. That belief becomes a limitation. Calm is not reserved for a certain personality type. It is a trained response developed through consistent practice and self-awareness. Just like strength or endurance, it grows when it is deliberately challenged. Pressure exposes habits. When stress hits, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall back on what you've practiced. If your default reaction is panic, avoidance, or emotional outbursts, that's not a flaw in character, it's a lack of training. Calmness under stress is the result of repetition in difficult moments, choosing to slow down when everything urges you to speed up. Each time you pause instead of reacting, you reinforce a new neural pathway that favors control over chaos. Discipline plays a critical role in this process. Calm doesn't come from hoping situations will be easier. It comes from preparing for them to be hard. That means regulating your breathing when your heart rate rises, grounding your attention when your thoughts scatter, and maintaining structure when unpredictability shows up. These actions feel uncomfortable at first because they go against instinct, but discomfort is the cost of mastery. The more often you choose calm intentionally, the more natural it becomes. Intentional response separates trained calm from emotional suppression. Suppression ignores the feeling and forces a mask, while intention acknowledges the emotion and chooses a measured action anyway. You notice the tension in your body, the urge to react, and you decide not to let that impulse dictate your behavior. That decision builds trust in yourself. You begin to believe that no matter what happens, you can handle your internal state, which reduces fear before it even arises. Over time, repetition rewires your baseline. Situations that once felt overwhelming start to feel manageable. Your mind learns that urgency doesn't require panic and conflict doesn't require aggression. Calm becomes your default not because life is easier, but because you are stronger. The skill compounds quietly, showing up when it matters most, allowing you to think clearly, communicate effectively, and act with purpose even when the environment is loud, fast, and demanding. Anyone can stay calm when life is predictable, when the stakes are low and the outcome feels safe. Comfort doesn't demand much from you. It doesn't test your character or force you to make hard choices. Pressure is different. Pressure strips away appearances and exposes what's really there. When chaos hits, excuses disappear and habits take over. That moment is where leadership is revealed, not by titles or words, but by behavior under strain. Chaos creates noise, urgency, and emotional pull. People look for direction even if they don't say it out loud. In those moments, the person who can slow their thinking and stay grounded becomes a stabilizing force. Choosing clarity under pressure is not about having all the answers. It's about refusing to add confusion. While others react impulsively, complain, or freeze, the leader maintains presence. That presence alone changes the dynamic of the situation. True power shows up in restraint. It takes strength to remain composed when emotions are high, to listen when tension is rising, and to respond thoughtfully instead of defensively. Pressure tries to force decisions based on fear or urgency, but clarity requires patience. It requires the ability to filter what matters from what doesn't, to focus on the next right action rather than the overwhelming size of the problem. Leadership under pressure is not loud or dramatic. It's steady. It's the ability to regulate your internal state so it doesn't infect the environment around you. When you stay calm, others begin to mirror that calm. When you stay focused, you create space for solutions. This is how trust is built in real time through consistency when circumstances are unstable. Pressure also reveals self-leadership. Before you can guide anyone else, you have to manage yourself. Chaos tests whether you can honor your values when it's inconvenient, whether you can think long-term when short-term emotions are screaming for attention. Each high-pressure moment is an opportunity to reinforce who you are becoming. Choosing clarity in chaos doesn't eliminate difficulty, but it gives you leverage. It allows you to act instead of react, to influence outcomes instead of being controlled by them. Over time, these choices compound into confidence and credibility. The leader within is not created by calm conditions, but by repeated decisions to stay grounded, intentional, and decisive when everything around you is unstable and demanding.